Welcome to the Taproom Exclusive. I'm Dean Zarbaugh. I'm here at Jolly Scholar with Matt Vann. We are now on to the Jolly Porter, which is a really nice porter. I'm not normally a porter drinker, but this is something that I really enjoy. It's got a lot of flavor into it. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, I think when you talk about porter, sometimes it's kind of your one of your quintessential core beers. We talk about from like the home brewing perspective, and then coming back over to the professional side. I think it's a little bit undervalued. I think stouts start to get a little bit more attention, and then you start to get into imperial stouts, and then people start to throw stuff on coconut and nibs and everything else in between, and it starts to get a little bit of a soft reputation. But for this beer specifically, I wanted you to try it because I think it's one of our more underrated beers. And I think for the style, I mean, we can go all those different directions with it, but I think just as a core beer, it's just a really, really, really nice beer. And I think it's a style that I'm not willing to let go away so fast.
Yeah. I have a customer at work who only drinks porters. That's all he drinks. And he would love this. This is something that I would turn him onto this. This would probably be his steadfast porter. This has a lot of flavor to it. Before you told me that it was the porter, just with my amateurish palate, because you also do an oatmeal stout, I didn't know which one it was. I can't quite break down dark beers like that, but it's a compliment to it because it drinks fuller than a lot of people think porters normally drink.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I think this one is a little bit more robust than our oatmeal stout is. I think it's a little bit more forward. It's 5.8%. There's some dark fruit kind of notes to it. It definitely the mouthfeel of it comes through. I think even a little bit more full than what our oatmeal stout does, and that's no knock against our oatmeal stout,
right.
But I think for the beer and for the styles, and I guess even comparatively to the two, I'm most impressed and more proud of this beer. And this is one of the beers where when people that come through that enjoy core beers, and what I mean by that is when they're not as turned on and it's not as romantic to have the next new IPA or the next new whatever fruited, soured, whatever, Berliner, whatever. When they just, you get somebody that comes through there that just likes the core beers. They like to try a porter that's just a porter, or they like to try a Pils that's just a Pils, or a blonde ale that's just a blonde ale. This is the one that everybody, when I get messages through, Facebook or emails or whatever says that says, that is the best porter I've ever had. And Aaron, I got to give him all the credit on this one. He crushed this one. And this one is one of my 5 favorite beers that we brew. And again, I like it simple. I like it just how it is, and it's 5.8%. So it's not watered down.
No,
so that's not light. But it's just it's got everything that I want in a porter.
you can. It stacks up very well. There's a lot of famous porters around town, and a lot of people doing porters. It stacks up with them. If you like porters, this is something. The Jolly Scholar Jolly Porter is something that you really need to try. Going to, our first episode, we were talking about how hard it is to find your brewery, and I think people need to get here and try this, because if you like porters, this is holding up really well.
Yeah, and it's it's the right season for it now.
It really is.
And it's something that's going to throw off a lot of those for whatever your taste buds are. When you start to move into those winter months or those colder months, you start to get into some of these darker beers. Again, to stay 5.8, to stay true to the style, and to stay robust with flavor, and to just kind of meet and achieve all of those kinds of things, and something that plays well now that it's 55 outside, and something that plays well when you don't want an imperial stout 2 months from now. This is that beer that's going to be kind of like our cold beer or our light lager through the cold months. This is our lead dog through the cold months to say, hey, I know you don't want a 10%, take your shirt off and wrestle in the front yard beer. This is our 5.8. This is our, it's still robust. It still has all those aspects that you want in a darker beer. This is the one, and so this will be our second season, really showcasing this beer this time of the year, and again, this one will turn into probably through the cold months. This will probably be our second or third, best-selling beer.
Nice, yeah.
The next 3 or 4 months.
It's that time of year. It's dark beer season, and how do you usually keep this on year round?
Kind of. So, we'll brew it, and when it runs out, like when we starting to get into some of the warmer months, it doesn't like maybe take priority, as a smaller brewery, it doesn't maybe take priority to like leapfrog back to the top. Mm-hmm. But when we spin, something that's on the similar or same yeast, then we'll come back to it like, what everything else is kind of, in a good place from, as far as, back stock or what we need to sell in house, then we'll brew it again. So I would say, it does stay on year round, or it's at least in our minds year round. The cold months, it's on all the time. But when we get to some of the warmer months, or coming into some of the warmer months, we might be out without it for 3 to 4 weeks, mm-hmm. but never a season or anything like that.
But it's still over the summer, spring, and stuff. It's still pretty solid as far as people coming in and looking for it. Like, because there's some people out there who don't drink porters or stouts when it's warm out.
Sure.
What's been your experience on your side of things as an owner in that with a porter? Do you find there's still a decent amount of people who like to drink porters all year round?
Yeah, I think we find that there's, just like there are IPA drinkers or what have you, there's dark beer drinkers. And, and maybe they don't show up as much in the warmer months or anything like that, because, maybe it's not as, as light or effervescent. You're definitely getting coffee flavors, and you're getting, caramel, and you're starting to get some, maybe some toffee and some slightly burnt roasty flavors in it, kind of a thing. And I think that's a little bit, at times off-putting to somebody who's just walked, 4 or 5 minutes in 80 or 90 degree weather,
right?
Where maybe they don't want a cup of coffee,
right,
so to speak. And they want something a little bit more, maybe a little more lighter floral. But no, it's definitely so. When we go into the warmer months, we'll probably bounce between this and our oatmeal stout, and I think that's we'll always have one of the two on. During the warm months, during the cold months, we have them both on, and. We'll push this one through the tap. We'll put the oatmeal stout through the nitro, and then we'll start, kind of messing with some stuff. At Cleveland Beer Week coming up, we're going to have a couple variations of this beer on. We're pushing porter.
Nice.
We're not bringing an IPA to the party. We're not bringing a Berliner to the party. We're bringing variations of a porter to the party, and for some people, they'll think we're crazy, and but again, I think it's one of these. The thought is we want this beer to be, just again, hey, don't forget about porters.
Right,
it's a real beer.
Absolutely, that's the perfect time to do it with Cleveland Beer Week and everything. Everybody's looking for something different. Everybody's looking to try something that they can't always get, and offering different varieties of this. I think. Really satisfy people's tastes. It's a great base beer.
It is, and again, it's kind of funny, when we look at recipes and we talk about recipes, and and Aaron's just a fantastic person to balance your thoughts against, and he's a great person to start off with, the first. Derivative of what the formula is going to be, and then he lets you balance it off, and what do you think, and then he'll counterbalance, like, well, here's what I think that's going to do. Is that what you want? And then you kind of go off of all these things. But the funny thing we always come back around to is, and I think it's more of our customer base more than anything, which is, well, okay, all that sounds great. What is that ABV going to be? Right. And I think it was, again, Andy Vikram who said, hey, don't go lower than 5, don't go higher than 10. Stay, kind of stay right in that wheelhouse, and you'll be fine. Anything under 5, people feel like they're getting undervalued. Anything over 10, you're over-serving.
Right.
Stay in that wheelhouse, and scale it proportionate to the glass, and go from there, kind of a thing. So that was, the thought was when we first put the recipe together, it was like 5.1, and it squeaked over the finish line. And the thought was between Aaron and I was, man, that's not going to be enough to pull them off of an oatmeal stout. Mm-hmm. A lot of these customers, they go to the oatmeal stout and go, it's a stout. Right. So at least I'm drinking a stout. Mm-hmm. I'm doing the Lord's work. Yeah. So the thought was, okay, let's get them up to somewhere near 6% where they feel good about it, but to where the beer stays balanced. And so when Aaron came back with the final recipe, and we revved through what kind of what you're tasting here today. We just knew we had it, and then literally we had a group of professors today from Baldwin Wallace that were on site visiting, and this was collectively the standout of the show for them.
Nice.
And they were IPA drinkers. I mean, it wasn't professors. Well, they don't drink IPAs, and they don't know. They went through them all. As a matter of fact, they went through. We have 12 on tap now, 10 on tap now today, and they went through all 10.
Nice.
And this was the star of the show for them today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see love for something that doesn't always get valued, like a porter. Because, it's always IPA, something like that. But to see, or stout, but to see something like a porter get the appreciation it deserves is always nice to see. I love porters.
Yeah, and again, I agree wholeheartedly with you. That again, I don't think it's a style that's anywhere near its time, or time to go away, or it's fading away, or anything like that. It may not have the star power as a stout, or some of these other darker acknowledgments out there. Scotch ales, or even some of these darker Belgian beers or something like that. Darker stuff, a little bit more robust stuff is. The porter kind of, it's got its way. It's kind of like the kid brother that, is kind of fun to have the kid brother come around.
Yeah.
He's still, pretty cool kid brother to have around, but it still kind of plays, kid brother. But I think, in my opinion, I mean, it is stylistically, it's an unsung hero. And so that's why, the thought was with Cleveland Beer Week is, hey, they told us to bring 2 beers. We're going to show up with 2 porters.
Right.
And maybe we'll get kicked out of the party. Maybe they'll ask us to stay, but we're showing up.
Well, I compare it. I was, I was making the comparison that it's the Clint Howard of styles. It's, when you get Clint Howard in a movie, you don't know him by name, but you'll know him when you see him. It's Ron Howard's brother. Every time he's in a movie, he's awesome. He's always good. He's dependable. And he does it right when you need him to, and that's what I feel like a porter kind of is the Clint Howard of a beer.
I think you just might have named our beer, because right now this just goes off as the Jolly Porter.
Call it the Clint Howard.
It's funny because we sit here all the time, and typically it's Aaron and I and our other brewer, Eric Miller, and we'll sit around. Eric's definitely the more creative of the bunch. He's a history professor turned. I don't like this anymore. And
seems to go around.
Yeah, so we throw the the naming assignments a lot of times to him, and so this is one of these beers where, like internally in house here we really like it, and so we're so hung up on the name of it, and we're so hung up on how to name it. That you may have just named it.
That would be cool.
Because we throw it out there, and like instantly, like 2 of the 3 of us will be like, "Nah, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it." And but
it's hard coming up with the perfect name.
It is, and again, especially like I said, this is like the one that we really internally we really like, and we really love it, and it's exactly where we want it to be. Like, collectively, we don't have any adjustments that we want to make to it. And there's other beers that we're like, yeah, this and that and whatever. This is the one we really like exactly where it's at. We don't want to go over 6%. We don't want to raise the IBUs, even though there's a little bit of bitterness on the back that I think kind of is nice for the style. And it's all those things. And every time we get around to the name, we just sit there and go, nah, just this Jolly Porter, that's not the name. Whatever you just came up with is not the name. But you just may have named the beer. I'll shop it to the committee.
That would be awesome.
That's actually pretty good.
What if you wanted to eat with this? What would you say is something you maybe would be good to pair with it?
Yeah, I think if you had it in the summer, you want to go something a little bit lighter with it. Something that just that the flavors just kind of meld well, and where it just it can pick up a little bit on the backside, with the beer itself, but just when you get to some of these darker and roastier kind of beers, they're easy to kind of overwhelm everything that you're tasting. So I think using the food almost, again, like I mentioned before, to kind of like balance out the palate the other way. And then when you start to get into the colder months, I think, if you're going to get big with it, I think the starchier stuff plays nice with it. And, the starchier stuff, I think the spicier stuff kind of plays well with it, and kind of lays down and kind of puts a fun little profile together. Again, I'd like to, go a little bit more to the obnoxious side than I do to the what plays absolutely perfect side of things. And I'm sure that didn't answer your question. But
on the obnoxious side, what would you say? Like the spicy stuff?
Yeah, for sure, the spicy stuff. And again, you got the roastier stuff, and to kind of knock it down and bring it down a notch. And it's not bitter, and it's not hoppy, it's not whatever. But I think if you go spicy, I think it'll level it out. But there's an intensity to the beer that kind of doesn't lose sight of the elevation of the spicier aspects of the food, but that I think kind of help create a fun experience, overall. I mean, again, when you got a bigger roastier beer, I would say go bigger with whatever the experience is on the food side of it. On the spicy side is where I would probably tend to go.
Very cool. Anything else you want to get out about this before we head out?
No, I just want to finish it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in next week for the finale here at Jolly Scholar.